Hello and welcome to Industry Insight Sessions from Change in Education. My name is Amos Madra. I'm a careers advisor with Change in Education. And in this program, we get to speak to employers about their own career journey and tips and advice that they may offer to you. With me today is Tom Warrender, who's the head of social housing team at Wilson Browne Solicitors, who are a legal firm that cover all areas of private, client, and commercial law. Thank you very much, Tom, for joining us today. And how are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's a pleasure to join you and support this. So thanks very much for the invite. Glad to help.
So, Tom, for those of us that don't know too much about the law sector, could you tell us a bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, of course. So, as you say, my name's Tom Warrender. I'm a partner at Wilson Browne Solicitors. So, quite rightly, as you mentioned, I head up our social housing team. I also work within our commercial property team. So they're the sort of two roles in terms of the law element that I do. But I also have management responsibilities, and I sit on our board of management of the firm as well. So there's a couple of hats I wear here, but yeah, it's me.
Wow, sounds exciting. So no 2 days are the same for you then, I take it?
Absolutely not. And you know, that's what I love about it. I love the variety, and I'm sure we'll talk throughout this about sort of my career and how I got here and what have you. But I always knew in going into a firm, I say always knew, I had a feeling, and that develops over time, that I would like partnership in the terms of, not so I can say I'm a partner, but to be involved in the strategic planning of the firm, to be involved in management, to help with marketing and business development, rather than just do the law. Whereas I've got friends in other firms who could think of nothing worse, because they're trained to do the law, and what they want to do each day is deal with the law, because they don't want to do management, and that's fine. And even on the law side, you know, within my role in commercial property and social housing, no 2 days are the same anyway, but then you throw in the management mix as well, and you've got a lot of variety, but I love it. So yeah.
Did you always want to be a lawyer?
I think so. And the reason I say I think so is because I remember being about 12 or 13 and saying to my parents that I think I'd like to be a lawyer. And, you know, as you grow up, you throw out lots of different ideas as to what you may or may not want to do. And, you know, if you asked me when I was 5 or 6 or 7, I'd have said I want to be a footballer. And then you realize I don't have the ability for that. But I'd made a throwaway comment that I want to be a lawyer. And I think my parents heard the word lawyer and went, well, that's great. And kind of that was it. Everyone they told, Tom wants to be a lawyer. But the funny thing is as well, I wanted to be a lawyer at that age. And one of the first sessions, I remember it distinctly, one of my first sessions at university, there was a lecturer made some joke that if anyone's here because they've watched, well, at the time, what was Ally McBeal, or, you know, nowadays you might say Suits or whatever, because you've seen it on TV, get out, was basically a joke because it's not like on TV. And which was a fair point, but equally, I sort of thought, well, that is how I started here. Because the reason I said that, you know, at 12, 13 years of age is because I'd seen legal programs on television. And so you'd seen solicitors involved and barristers and judges and courts and what have you. But obviously what I'd seen was all criminal law. I knew nothing about all of these other areas of law, and particularly commercial property, that I did. So I knew at an early age I was quite interested, but then over time, in reading up on it and going to university and doing the job, I then had my eyes open to all the other different areas there were. And then here I am several years later, and I'm doing commercial property. So I knew, but I would be lying if I said I knew at an early age I wanted to be a commercial property lawyer, because at that age I didn't even know what commercial property was. So I think it's something that evolves over time.
And what was the progression route into your current role from college to university? What did you study for your A-levels, and what did you do at university?
Yeah, so I think the route into law is constantly evolving, and there's lots of changes to that. And the thing I would say to anyone watching this who's interested in a career in law is read up on it, keep up to date on it, because it does change. And I'm old enough that as I was going through school, even before doing A-levels, that I was reading up on the route I needed to take at that time. And I knew I needed to do a law degree for the route I wanted to take. I ended up moving from the school I was at, which had a sixth form, to a local college so that I could do A-level law. And I remember the school saying to me at the time, because they didn't offer A-level law, well, you know, you don't need to do A-level law to do a law degree, which was true. My logic behind it was, if I don't like the law degree, the law A-level, and I completely don't get on with it, I don't want to spend another 3 years studying it. You know, as much as I thought this is the career for me, it may not be. So I studied A-level law and a couple of other A-levels, sociology, social policy, citizenship. But I mean, those were really dressed around the fact that I wanted to do law, and I knew I wanted to do law. So I'd done that at A-level. I then did the law degree. I was then fortunate enough, you know, it was different times then, but I was fortunate enough that in my second or third year of uni, I had a conditional job offer here at Wilson Browne, subject to getting my degree and doing the LPC. So I then went on and did the legal practice course for another year. So you've got for me, it was sort my GCSEs, 2 years A-level, 3-year law degree, another year legal practice course. And then I started the training contract, which was 2 years on the job training in different areas of law with full qualification. So that's sort of the route through I took. There's lots of different routes. People come through legal executive. There's different exams for different areas, sort of licensed conveyancers. There's so many different roles in the law. And I think when I say I read up on it, I literally read up on it, went to the library and got books on it. And for fear of sounding really old, it's so easy now in terms of finding opportunity. It's certainly not easy to get into the law, but in terms of understanding what routes there are, it's so easy because with the internet and social media, firms' websites, the Law Society's websites, all that information's at the click of a button. So if people are interested, have a look, have a read, and see what options there are and which ones might suit you. There's also potential solicitor apprentice routes. There's lots of different routes, so there's not one size fits all, but there's a lot of information out there. So
that's very helpful. Thank you for sharing that with us. What is your day-to-day work life like?
Varied, very varied. And I think this is what I always say to people when I talk to them about careers in the law, a little bit like, you know, the thing that interested me way back when was criminal law, and now I'm doing something completely different. You won't know till you've done it. You won't know till you've tried it. So a lot of the questions I pose to people who are looking at a career in law may not know the answers yet, and that's fine. You'll find it over time. But you could be somebody who wants to work in a big city firm. And what you may find within that is you might work as part of a big team, and that might be your thing. Whereas otherwise you might be someone who prefers to just have their own caseload and do your own thing. You might be someone who wants to go out to court and sort of argue cases, as it were. You might prefer to be drafting technical documents, and it can vary. It may also be, you could be at a firm where, for us, even on the commercial property side, it's such a varied area. It can be literally anything from startup business, very first business venture, a short-term lease, but this is their lifetime ambition and it means the world to them, but they really need the hand-holding, through to national or international businesses who are on their umpteenth massive warehousing deal. They just want it done. They've got different demands, but I love that variety. You could work at a firm where it's very niche and you only do shopping centre leases, which might be very exciting because you're dealing with big retailers. Perhaps now's not the best time, but you know, you're dealing with the big retailers, you've got the big names there, but you're doing the same work. And that might be exactly your forte and your niche, and that's your thing, and enjoy that. For me, I love the variety. I love the fact that any given day I could be acting for a startup, I could be acting for a charity who, you know, they're doing this in their own time on top of everything else, and they need the help and guidance. To equally working for the big corporates. And I think for me, what I love is helping people. And if we tie that back to why I wanted to do the law, it was always about helping people. And so whoever I'm acting for, I'm able to help them, whatever the size of deal. But it's always very varied. And I think I like that, you know, you can have an idea in your head, and obviously I've got certain deals I need to get through and certain timescales to meet, and I'll have a plan in my head every week of the things that I know I need to do. But then every given day, you don't know what the next email is going to be or the next call, but I like that. You know, I like having the variety. Because I wear the different hats that I mentioned, there's a management element as well, which I thoroughly enjoy. I think even if I didn't have that, even if I was solely doing the day job, as it were, as a lawyer, one of the things we talk about a lot here, and I see it as something where the profession's evolved, is lawyers, whatever they may be within the firm, whether they're paralegals or solicitors or legal execs, licensed conveyancers, ILEX, whatever the case may be, they're known as fee earners, because by our very nature, our role in the firm is to do the work, bill the fees. So you're known as fee earners. And I think historically, you turn up, you do the work, and that's your job. And it's evolved. And actually, your job is far more than that. Your job is business development. You're responsible not just for doing the files that sat next to me here, but for bringing them in. So we've got an in-house marketing team. They're excellent, and we're very fortunate to have them. But that doesn't mean, even if I wasn't a partner, as a solicitor, as a fee earner in this firm, it's my responsibility to get work. And that's not about going out and selling, but it's just about having relationships, working with people and having rapport with them, having trust and understanding that you develop over time. So yeah, no 2 days are the same, really. It's doing the work that's there. It's getting more work in. It's also keeping profile, doing legal updates, whatever the thing may be at the time, articles for the website, social media, also the management side of my role, and then things like this, being able to give something back, because we talked about why I wanted to do the law. I made a pass-away comment. My parents kind of latched onto that and went, great, do it. But that was it. And everything else I read myself, everything else I went and sought out, and there were careers things through the school, but they were nowhere near as good as the options that there are now. And there's so much information out there, not just on the routes to qualify, but just looking at firms' websites and seeing their social media. If you follow any firm, and it's certainly, this isn't a push for Wilson Browne, it can be any firm, if you're following their social media and you're interested in the law, you'll see the case studies they publish, and you'll see, oh, didn't know about that area of law or whatever, and you'll get a flavour for what life in the law is about. So there's so much opportunity out there, I think, to learn more. And it's just, it sounds a bit cliche, but I think it's a journey for people. You will have an interest now. There'll be people watching this thing, and I think I might want to do the law. And they'll have their reasons why, whether it's a family member does it, or they saw something on TV, or they've just heard about it. But their journey will be over time when they read more, learn more, see the different areas, and see what works for them. And it will evolve. But yeah, it's no 2 days are the same, that's for sure.
It's great to hear your passion and enthusiasm.
Thank
you. It's again, clear to see, even on your social media, the sorts of things that you do, getting involved with charity, as well as helping young people, even taking part in programs like this. Now, I know that, in order to get into a particular career, you do have to be enthusiastic about it, and clearly you are. But what practical skills and knowledge do you need to get into your particular career?
I think it's one of the things I always get asked that sort of links to that question is, particularly, I help out at careers events at different age groups, and when you get people that are just embarking on their GCSEs, so really it's very, very early to know what they want to do, and they're coming into GCSE year and they're saying, blimey, this is tough. Studying law must be really tough. And so many people you speak to, particularly outside of the law, go, oh, you studied law, that must have been difficult. And don't get me wrong, I studied hard, but that degree was no harder than any other. I think any degree is difficult. The thing that makes it achievable is your interest in it, because whatever you're studying, there will be lots of reading. Now, if it's something that you've kind of begrudgingly gone into, you're going to hate that reading. If it's something you're genuinely interested in, it's not going to make it easy, of course it's not, but it's easier because that reading isn't a chore, it's interesting. I've always wanted to learn. You spoke about my passion for it. I do love the law. So yes, it was hard to study, but it was great to do. I think in terms of the second part of your question, in terms of what do people need to succeed in this type of career or to get an opportunity, I think an acknowledgement that there will be academic requirements, whichever route you go down, you will need to do certain exams or get certain experience or all of these things, but so will everyone else who's doing it. Yes, you'll need to achieve it, but there'll be so many others who will have done the same. So then it's the next part. And I sort of work on the basis that the law can be taught, and you will learn that and you will pick that up. What you can't necessarily teach, you can to an extent, but what people really need is the attitude and the approach. And I think that is the passion for the law. It's the wanting to do it. It's the wanting to learn. It's being able to give practical advice. And I think just whatever area of law you do, just a commercial understanding, because when you're advising clients, you've studied, you know all of the technical detail, but clients don't want you to just recite chapter and verse of a particular piece of case law or a statute. They want to understand how that law that you understand fits their situation, and actually what the different options are and what the implications on them may be. And it's that side of the job that I think is key, is being able to speak to people and being able to understand their needs and then advise accordingly. So it's very much a relationships approach, I think, and understanding your client. You know, just as I say, no 2 days are the same, no two clients are the same either. So it's that side of things. And as long as people have the right attitude, they'll go far. You know, don't get me wrong, the studying is difficult, of course it is, but it's that other side that's really important. And sometimes people say to me, you know, in terms of applying for roles, because they're so hard to get training contracts, it's so hard to get into the law, what do I do? And it's a similar thing. Yes, your qualifications are important, but you've got to work on the basis that no matter how well you've done, loads of other people will have done just as well. So there'll be loads of CVs landing on desks with the same qualifications as you. And I'm not taking away from the fact you've worked hard to get it, but you've got to be realistic. Others have got it as well. So what makes you different? Don't be afraid when you're applying for a job to tell that firm why you've applied for that job there. You know, we all know, we're all realistic. You've applied because deep down you want a training contract, but you've applied to that particular firm. Why? What was it about them? What did you see on their website that made you think, I can see myself here? Because it is important, you know, as I spoke earlier about the different types of firm, you might see yourself as in a big city corporate firm, in a big team, or you might see yourself on the high street working, doing your own files, but seeing clients literally walking in off the street. You might see yourself as constantly out trying to bring work in, or you might see yourself as working under someone else who brings the work in so that you can just do the job. So that's where the reading and research comes in. Understand where you see yourself and then kind of pitch it from there as to where you want to be.
And how about practical steps like maybe work experience or joining, say, the Law Society? Would that sort of thing help as well?
Absolutely. The more experience you can get, the better. And it's difficult because right now we're doing these video interviews, and the sector spotlight sessions before were because lockdowns meant actually your normal work experience couldn't happen. Even in a year where that could happen, I fully appreciate it's still very difficult. For example, we don't have a set work experience program as such. There are times where we'll potentially have people in, but it is a big commitment from a firm as well. It's hard to get experience, but where you can, it's important to get it. And I think what's most important is what you do with that experience. So because of this, I used to have an interest in criminal law. At one point, I was able to get work experience at the Crown Prosecution Service, very much looking at how criminal law works. I had that on my CV, and I distinctly remember when I was interviewed here, one of the questions I was asked at interview was, we see on your CV that you went to the Crown Prosecution Service. We don't do criminal law. So where's the link there? And I could honestly say, actually, the experience I had there was good, but it was also enough for me to decide, actually, this isn't the route I want to go down. So I think the key thing is people can get experience. Don't worry about how good, bad, or indifferent it is, because if it's some experience that makes you think, crikey, this isn't the type of firm I want to be at, or that area of law, no, it's not what I thought it was, that's fine. You know, it's as much as it is to show you've looked into the career and tried to get yourself some experience, it's really important for you as the individual. What experience can you get to help you in making the decision as to what type of firm do you want to work in, what type of law do you want to do? And I think even when work experience isn't available, particularly in these times where it's difficult, things like these interviews, you know, you'll be doing these with so many different industries, so many different jobs. There'll be videos of these for everyone, and there'll be, I keep coming back to it, there's so much information on the internet and social media. The way you get experience, of course, if you can get in at a firm, it's great, but also the amount you can read and learn for yourself, that is also important. There's so much out there. I think it's just understanding what that's like. I mean, one of the things we added to our website not too long ago actually was some articles from our trainees, so current trainee solicitors who could sort of do almost a day in the life type thing. There's loads of that information out there from different firms where people can actually read and go, oh, that's what it's like. And it's that type of thing. So yeah, any experience people can get is important. And even if they want to go down the law route and it's not experience in the law firm, it's still experience. You know, whatever your experience is, whether it's having a weekend job while you were studying or whatever the thing is, you've still taken on responsibilities. There are still core skills from that are important. So yeah, certainly read up where they can, get experience where you can, registering with the Law Society, following their updates and what have you. Again, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's very good advice. Thank you. What are your plans for the future?
For me, right now, obviously, it's very challenging times. So with the management role I have, there's lots going on, as you can imagine, and there have been since the pandemic first hit and we went into lockdown, in terms of how we operate as a firm, how we can incorporate home working, how we can manage people remotely, how we can deal with certain areas of work suddenly dropping off a cliff and then suddenly coming back, and how you can manage that. So there's lots of strategic management things. And I think it serves as a reminder that you never quite know what's around the corner. But for me, it's about working with the other partners here and driving the firm forward, working with the next generation of lawyers that we've got coming through. You know, we're blessed here. We've got 160 staff across our 6 offices, all at different levels. We've got some fantastic junior lawyers coming through. So it's brilliant for me to see them come on. One of our lawyers qualified as a solicitor just this last week. And what was great about that, he's worked tremendously hard. But I remember interviewing him for a paralegal role a few years ago. And so to see his journey come in, take that paralegal role, then get his training contract with us, then qualify into the team, those types of things are really rewarding. I think on a career path, because I've made it to equity partner level, I'm here for the long haul. You know, in terms of next steps on the ladder, there isn't a next step. The next step for me is working with the other partners to keep driving the firm forward and bring through the next generation. I think what might be helpful for people watching and that want careers in the law is every firm will have a different structure, but you will do your training, whatever route you go down, and then you can qualify as a solicitor. So if you go down the solicitor route, there'll be a point where you qualify as a solicitor. Every firm will have a different structure. Some will have solicitor, senior solicitor, associate, senior associate, and there could be half a dozen rungs on the ladder. There could be a much more simplified process. For example, here at the moment we have solicitors, we then have associates, we then have salaried partners, and we then have equity partners. But there'll be different routes, and people going through their legal career will have different aspirations. Like I say, some people aren't interested in partnership because they want to do the role they've trained for, they want to be paid well for that, and they want to be allowed to do that. They don't want the management responsibility or the financial commitment. You know, in making it to equity partner level, I'm immensely proud, but I've also made a financial commitment to the firm as well. So as well as being a lawyer, I'm also in business as well. So there's those risks that come with it, but there's lots of steps along the way. And I think for people watching this, you will find those steps for yourself as it goes on. You don't know what you don't know yet. There's lots of information out that you can read, but it's when you take that path along your career, those doors will open. You'll see what matters to you. You'll see what the next step is for you and take that forward.
Thank you, Tom. And final question, how can people learn more about you? Where can they find out more information about you and your company?
Yeah, certainly the company, we've got our website, Wilson Browne Solicitors. So there's lots of information on there. As I say, there's the kind of the trainees take on their daily lives as well, which I think is a really useful resource. There's lots of stuff on all the different areas of law we offer. There's case studies on there. There's a lot of information. In terms of me, whether or not I'm the best example, I'll leave people to judge for themselves. But there's my profile on the website, but there's also, I'm on LinkedIn. I joke about it slightly as to whether I'm the best example, because I will post legal updates. There'll also be some less professional stuff, a bit of personality maybe, but I think equally that's important. You know, as a firm, we've embraced social media, and I think, you know, yes, we're lawyers, yes, we're professionals, yes, we do a job, but we're also people, and I don't think it's a bad thing for people to see that. So I am on social media, but I'll forewarn people that there's a mix of content on there. But yeah, the website certainly, in terms of understanding the different types of law, and also, as daft as it may sound, if people went onto the website and just looked at this kind of an A to Z of our staff, you can see the different roles people have within the firm, which again is just sort of an eye-opener as to the different opportunities there are in terms of area of law, types of job, types of role, and what have you. So there's a lot of information there.
Wow. Tom, thank you so much indeed for coming here and talking to us.
Absolute pleasure.
You know, your enthusiasm and, you know, passion for your career. I'm hoping that the people watching this will see that these are the things that you'll need to be successful in your career. And, you know, you've been a great example of that. Thank you so much.
No, absolute pleasure. Thank you.